Growing up, I had two brothers and a sister. 2 years ago, we found out that we have at least 17 half-siblings.
Sorry, this is probably the weirdest text you will ever get, but I'm looking for a Maddie who was conceived using donor 8928. Hello, I'm Allison, and apparently I'm your sister.
I was looking around on campus thinking, well, now every boy with brown hair and green eyes is potentially my brother.
It was definitely shocking to find out how many of us there were. It was very interesting, the idea that somebody essentially is suing because you exist.
This case involves a medical institution and its fertility clinic.
I had many reservations as to the potential pitfalls of being a sperm donor.
To my knowledge, this is the biggest lawsuit from a sperm donor about the misuse of their donation. The lawsuit that we filed is for $5.25 million. I think we're going to start seeing more and more similar situations to where these fertility clinics were misusing genetic material and creating humans in a manner that they weren't supposed to.
The problem is that there is no external oversight on sperm banks. And so that's how you can end up with one donor who has 15 or even 50, or in some cases, we've even heard examples of 150 offspring out there.
My name is Allison.
I'm Rika.
My name is Robin.
I'm Honesty Gruner.
I'm Maddie.
My name is Jake Schellenberger.
I'm one of Bryce's.
Bryce Clary's.
Bryce Clary's.
I'm a donor sibling.
I'm a donor child.
And I'm a donor child of Bryce Cleary.
Hi, love. Good morning. I probably had suspicions starting around 16, just because the siblings that I grew up with that were my dad's from a previous marriage looked like him. I knew my nose was different. I knew my face was different. I just didn't fit the family picture looks-wise that everybody else had. I thought for one point maybe I was adopted, but then there was pictures of my mom in the hospital with me, so I knew that that wasn't it. And so I started asking questions, and my mom always just said, no, no, no. And finally, when I was 20, DNA testing was kind of getting popular. My mom and I were in the car, and I said, I'm gonna find out, so why don't you tell me? And she told me, she said, you're a donor child. I remember her saying, now you're gonna go look for your family, aren't you? And I said, no. Because to me, I thought she was talking about a dad, and I've always been confident I have a dad. It wasn't until later, a couple days, when I realized, wait a minute, there's probably other kids out there, there's probably other siblings out there that I would have. I found out my mom used OHSU and found donor number 8928 was the donor that was used to conceive. I went on the National Donor Sibling Registry site, and Maddie had already registered herself on there under our donor number.
I got Allie's text as I was on my way home from work. I was waiting for my bus, and my heart just stopped and my stomach dropped because it was the text I'd pretty much been waiting for years at that point.
I just remember being so relieved when she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you. And I was like, okay, we're gonna have a relationship, we're gonna have a conversation, this is gonna be okay, she's not gonna tell me to go away. And just being like, that nerves was over, but then it's like a whole new nerves of like, who is this person? It was probably about 6 months after we tested with 23andMe that I realized if we tested with more databases, we would have more chances of finding siblings. And so I tested with Ancestry DNA. And when my results came back, we found Ani.
My parents told me when I was really young, they told me about age 8. They were getting a divorce. I was very angry and they were fighting, and I asked them, what other secrets have you kept from me my whole life? Then they had to have a sit-down talk with me. They sat me down and my dad was crying. I have maybe seen my dad cry 3 times in my entire life. They explained it to me and I didn't really understand at first because I was so young, but it didn't change anything with my dad, but he thought it would, and that was the hardest part.
We are on our way.
Hey, dope. Do you know what Robin's driving? Because I tried to call her, and there's a car here.
Jake's driving like a little silver car. Just go knock on the door. It's your brother.
All right.
We met Ani, and then we matched to 2 siblings who remain anonymous. After that, we met Robin, and then Rika, and then Jake. We have a new sibling every 6 months or so.
Can I hug you? Yeah, hi, Jake.
Maddie, nice to meet you.
I was like, I'm excited to see who's taller, Jake or Maddie.
She's tall.
Yeah, he's the new guy.
I met Allie last night.
Yeah.
Just met Rob. I met him by today. Is this time to have like a shot or anything like that?
For me, the most surprising thing about the OHSU visit was hearing that there was probably 14 or more of us. And then hearing that beyond that, the donation could be shipped out to literally anywhere in the United States.
My mom said I didn't walk until 18 months. So looking at him, I'm like, he's good.
Robin had expressed interest in wanting to contact Bryce. And up until that point, me, Ani, and Maddie had all been on the same page of just not really wanting to. She said, I'm going to do it. And we said, great, good luck.
I reached out to him over Facebook and said like, hey, wanted to know that I believe that I'm one of your daughters from when you donated back in this time. I'd love to get some information from you. He actually put in the email that when he donated back in the 80s, he was told that there would be no more than 5 and that they would all be born on the opposite coast. And I told him I can confirm there are more than 5 and that we are all from the Oregon area. I showed Allie, Maddie, and Ani the emails.
I was so angry for him. And I think my first wording in that first email was, hi, I'm Allison. I'm one of your donor children. I'm not looking to have any sort of relationship with you at this point in my life, but I have some disturbing information that you need to be aware of. And I just unloaded everything on him. And that was the last conversation I had with him until in May of 2019, he sent me an email and said, sorry to bother you, but I've decided to pursue legal action and my lawyers would like to contact you. And I said, absolutely.
Prior to participating in the program, I had many reservations as to the potential pitfalls of being a sperm donor. Specifically, I was concerned about my own future children and any interaction they would unknowingly have with children produced in the program.
I'm not part of this lawsuit at all. This is Bryce's lawsuit. And I wanted to be there to support Bryce and let it be known that we think that this is wrong. This shouldn't have happened to him. And even though we're alive and we are his children, we support him taking action against what was done wrong to him.
I don't feel that Dr. Cleary signed up to be a father to all of these children, so I'm definitely not looking for any sort of that relationship from him, but I feel for him significantly.
So the way that sperm banks work is that they recruit donors. They spend 2 or 3 months screening them. They're asking them all kinds of medical questions. They're running genetic tests. They're running all kinds of medical tests. So there's a certain amount of money that's put into approving a man to be a sperm donor. And at the point at which he's approved, then they will need to make a certain amount of money back. And so they will ask donors to donate at least once a week for an entire year. One donation could result in anywhere between 0 and up to 8 or 9 vials of sperm that would then be later sold to recipient clients. And so over the course of that year, you build up dozens and dozens of samples. The sperm banks ship them out in their own local area, but also all over the country and even all over the world. And they don't have any way of making customers report back. So there is literally no way of knowing for sure. And because sperm banks aren't regulated in this area, you hear these reports of people like Bryce who find out later on, it's not just 5, it's 17.
Growing up, I had 2 brothers and a sister. 2 years ago, we found out that we have at least 17 half-siblings. My name is James Cleary, and I am Bryce Cleary's second-born natural son. And I'm also a lawyer on the team of lawyers that we have representing him in this lawsuit.
Hi.
My dad got the email from Allison, which really started the ball rolling. My dad requested the information from OHSU on his donation. In a very general sense, just give me whatever information you can, and they ignored his request. No one ever got back to him. The lawsuit that we filed is for $5.25 million. The nuts and bolts of our case are you have a medical student that was brought in to participate in a sperm donation program and was lied to in order to get him to participate. They took that material and said, we don't care what we told him, we're gonna use it for whatever we wanna use it for. He doesn't regret that any of them are alive or born. It's just, he feels like he needed to step up and be a voice for change in an industry that is really unregulated. I would say that in general, you guys look more like my dad than me and my siblings, which maybe my mom just has strong genes or something, but it's crazy, small world, that's for sure. Now it's
And
even
you're really
smaller.
learning how small it really is.
That is for certain.
How does he
Yeah.
feel about you coming to meet us today?
He wants me to be a go-between as much as possible. Even though on paper there's no responsibilities, but there's definitely a connection, right? And there's definitely some emotions tied with that. He has 4 kids and 5 stepkids and grandkids and all this stuff. That part is kind of why he's not trying to make contact and trying to find everybody and do all this. It's not that he doesn't want to, it's just that it's too overwhelming.
Sperm banks will both rely on customer reports. Some customers do call back and let them know, but they also have sort of proprietary algorithms that they use to try to figure out, all right, how many samples do we have? How many have we sold? What's the likelihood of people getting pregnant? The problem is that there is no external oversight on sperm banks. There is no federal agency or professional organization that tracks how many sperm donors there are in the United States, how often they're donating, how often those donations become children, and how many children there are per donor. And so that's how you can end up with one donor who has 15 or even 50, or in some cases, we've even heard examples of 150 offspring out there.
We're talking about humans, making humans. There's no regulation in law about making humans. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. Guidelines are not significant when you're talking about creating human life.
One of the biggest things that weighs on everybody in this situation is the unknown of how many are out there and how many there could be. So I think there needs to be a way to know for every single donor to know how many and where they are. If there's no way to record that seems like a good place to start.
I had always intended to donate, I think. Just kind of to give back. I knew what I had come from and my story and how I was conceived, and I wanted to, contribute or, hopefully help out some families if I could. I would say after this came to light and after I found out what the situation was and how the actual donations are treated, I have no intentions of donating anymore.
Those are good.
Would anyone else eat the garlic green beans if I get them? Yeah.
I still believe that there is a place for sperm donation and egg donation, that it helps a lot of people. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. But at the same time, there needs to be more regulations put in place so that this doesn't happen and you don't end up with a high concentration of siblings not knowing in a small confined space.
So somebody taught me a trick that if you flip a picture upside down, you look at that person for features instead of their face because you can't recognize their face. And so if you put a grid of all of us and you flip it upside down, it's like
the Brady Bunch?
Yeah. Just the cheeks, the nose, the everything.
Really fucked up Brady Bunch.
You would think our generation's fine. We're probably not gonna end up accidentally, being with a sibling, but I would worry more about our children.
My future children are going to have to get DNA tests to make sure that they're not biologically related to the people they're dating, and that's just not something they should have to do.
It's overwhelming to think that this is constantly going to be going on, to think that we're always going to be getting new siblings. But on the other hand, we get these amazing relationships that come out of it. So it's worth it, I feel like, the up and down.